I failed at so many things in the restaurant business by learning so much and having a ton of success because there's learnings into taking chances and failing. And I got so much out of it. What I found out when I was with Cracker Barrel as an officer of the company, I could not help people that I saw was suffering or entrepreneurs or struggling with restaurants, conflict of interest. So I always thought that there was a need there. And so after I decided to leave Cracker Barrel, I decided to own my own consulting company and help people.
Welcome, everybody, to the 2025 Prosper Forum. Today, I'm fortunate enough to have Ray Johnson join us. How you doing, Ray?
Anthony, I'm doing great. How are you, man?
Great. Having a great forum so
I got
far?
to tell you, this is just every year you think it's at its capacity. It's in terms of knowledge and content and great people. It exceeds my expectation every year.
Really?
I'm so proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
It's amazing.
With Prosper. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, thanks for coming by and sitting down with me. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your background, start off with that, and then talk about some issues facing operators here, what you're seeing out there as a consultant. But I wanted to start with your background. How did you get into the industry?
I love it. So Reader's Digest version. So I'm hoping I don't go too long, but I love this to talk about this because I got into the restaurant business with a franchisee that owned a McDonald's, and his dad needed help. And his dad was a mentor of mine and say, hey, I just want you to do it. My original plan was to do it for a year, make some money, and go and do whatever I wanted to do. I was majoring in business administration at Langston University. But I got into the business and I really got to see at that level the employee experience, guest experience. Didn't know what I was seeing, but I knew there was a connection there. So then I left there, tried to get out of it, tried to go into retail. Didn't like that, went back to the restaurant business, went to work for General Mills. A concept called Casa Dorado, spent about 7 years there, got all the way up to a district manager, then went to work for TGI Fridays. And the reason is simply, people say, well, what was this strategic plan of yours to work at TGI Fridays? They were actually the best in the business. And this was late 80s. They were the best in the business. And I thought I was very good. I wanted to go work for the best. And I went to work for TGI Fridays, worked there for about 11, 12 years. Wow. And I became director of operations for a big franchisee that owned a lot of TGI Fridays.
Where at?
Missouri, Illinois, and Oklahoma and Arkansas. As I like to say, the vacation capitals of the world. But so I did that. Had a lot of success there, learned a lot. I still say, I was talking to Ray Blanchett earlier. I said, Ray, I learned so much under great leaders like Dick Rivera, Wally Doolin. The guy spent a lot of time with Dan Scoggins, the founder, and on and on. So learned a lot.
So you were getting direct access to those leaders?
They were so good that they came to you. I mean, I got visits I could tell you each one of those CEOs, there's a time where I got to spend some quality, productive time.
Wow.
Either on a visit, either at a conference, that they made time for you.
Wow.
But they were relentless and disciplined about the brand. In other words, Ray and I was talking that the stripes had to be the only way. And every stripe had to be that way. The salt and pepper had to be clean. This is the way we looked at it. And so that really taught me about how we felt about our great employees, high morale, and it also taught me high discipline. It goes this way, always.
Okay.
And that was that.
Okay.
And I worked there for, like I said, 10, 11 years. And then I left there and I got into the petroleum business.
Okay.
Only time I've ever been out of the restaurant business for about 8 years. owned a company called St. Louis Petroleum and Marketing. I was a jobber, and most people don't know what that is, but I had access to refineries. I can go and send trucks to the refineries to supply my 23 to 25 gas stations and convenience stores. And typically what happens there, a typical gas station buys from a jobber, would buy from me. I had total access. So that was a real educational piece for me. And the reason I say that, Anthony, I knew nothing about gasoline except for the price of that's on the sign.
Yeah.
It taught me about leadership because I'm president and CEO, and I'm the least knowledgeable person in the business. It taught me about bringing people in. It taught me about collaboration. It taught me about servant leadership. And I didn't have to give up my title, my strength of who I was, but I was also very conscious about I had to talk to the district managers. I had to talk to the general managers that's running the C store, and the gasoline truck didn't come in that day. And I got to learn from each one of them as we go. And we got those up. We fixed those. We ran them. And I then sold them because I wanted to get back in the restaurant business. Yeah. And I started my own concept called Village Cafes.
Okay.
And I opened up 5 of them in St. Louis. And I always like to say, people say, well, tell me about Village Cafe. I said, well, the best way to talk about Village Cafe, I lived in St. Louis. It was a poor man's version of Panera Bread. I served salads and food and hot food and Southern food. And I wanted to capture all the business that was in all the downtown office buildings. So my motto was that if you had 2,000 or 3,000 people in an office building, I'm going to put one of my concepts in. And it got to be such a great thing that I partnered with a big leasing company, and every building they bought or built, they used me as an amenity. We want the Village Cafe in. So that's how I got up to 5 right away.
That's great.
And then I left, I sold those businesses and then went to work for Cracker Barrel. And I worked for Cracker Barrel almost 15 years.
Wow. How did you get that introduction? How do you go from being an entrepreneur, running your own thing, to Cracker Barrel?
It's a great story. So a friend of mine, I still get people who call me up and say, hey, Ray, what do you think about this concept? I'm going to interview you there at a higher level. We're talking about district managers, vice president. So I had this young man call me up and say, Ray, I'm going to interview with Cracker Barrel. And he says, what do you think? And I go, I don't know much about him, but go and talk to him and let's talk afterwards. He came back and he says, hey, I'm interviewing. And the guy that's interviewing me, Rick Hunt, says, hey, do you know Ray Johnson? I know you live in St. Louis. And he goes, yeah, I used to work for him. And the guy says, I used to work with Ray Johnson back in the late 80s. And Rick Hunt, who's the vice president of recruiting for Cracker Barrel, he and I used to be on a management team together. So Rick started the conversation of the vice president call me up, and the senior vice president called me up and wanted to interview me. And this is what I say to people, Anthony. I told them no for the first 6 months. I said, no, I love what I'm doing. But the reason I would go into Cracker Barrel and they would be extremely busy, I never had a great experience at a Cracker Barrel while I was interviewing. I would go in and have 4 or 5 visits and it would be horrible. It would just be slow, great people. They had passion, but it just wasn't good. But the one thing I say to people, they were extremely busy. And I go, what if we fix some of these things? What if we did it right? What if we brought the employees together and the guests and create this experience that when they come in, it's clean restaurants, it's great food, it's piping hot, it's awesome. And so that was my true north of why I wanted to get back. If I was going to get back in the restaurant business, it was just the basics I wanted to really drive. And I thought I could really make a difference. So my original thought was, I'm going to come and work for you for 3 years, and then I'm going to be done. And I even told my wife that. And 3 years turned into 15 because I kept getting promoted. I kept doing a good job. And I originally ended up being a divisional vice president of Cracker Barrel, moving to Nashville, Tennessee. My wife and daughter said we're never leaving. We love Nashville, and that's why I end up being. That's why I am today.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So now you have your own consulting company,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Cool. Consulting restaurants. Any size, any type of restaurant?
From scoops to nuts, and I want to say this slowly and emphasize this. I failed at so many things in the restaurant business by learning so much and having a ton of success, because there's learnings into taking chances and failing. And I got so much out of it. What I found out when I was with Cracker Barrel as an officer of the company, I could not help people that I saw was suffering, or entrepreneurs or struggling with restaurants, conflict of interest. So I always thought that there was a need there. And so after I decided to leave Cracker Barrel, I decided to own my own consulting company and help people. Okay. And I will tell you this, and this is not about me, it's about the good people that are running franchisees. There are several franchisees that I just said, I just want to be in the business and help you. You put your life savings in it. So there's this young man in St. Louis, Missouri that owns a concept. And he grew up with Ralston Purina, never been in the restaurant business, but he's from New Orleans. So I always say people from New Orleans, they think they could cook. And he says, I want to run this restaurant and I want to own it. And I said, I wouldn't do it just to save you money. But he wanted to do it. And so I spent time with him, probably about 6 months, just really coaching him up, talking to him about the do's and don'ts, talking to him about the four walls, talking to him about here's what's important to guests, here's what's important to employees. And luckily, after spending about a year, we created this great concept. He runs it in Southern Illinois. Awesome. Now he's got his second concept. Awesome. It's averaging over $3 million a year. Awesome. And he just, I still am real good friends with him today. But the thing is, he started it out the right way. Yeah. He got the knowledge, he got the upload. And I felt that there's a need and there's a gap in our industry right now. People have great intentions, and a typical franchisor, you're going to get about a good 3 weeks of training in the very beginning. But at that point, it's yours. Yeah. And you're developing and on. And that's where I found out my niche has been. I've been able to help some great entrepreneurs who've hit the ground running, and they've really established a trend where they don't take that traditional dip after they open and they get slammed really hard. Service is down and sales are down. So this has been something I've really enjoyed. I love helping operators. Cool. I believe operations is the motor of the car, period. Yeah.
So what are you seeing right now? What's on your mind that you're seeing in the industry? What are you focusing on when you're consulting with these?
So great question. Here's what I tell everyone, because if you talk to a typical franchisee, sure, we all want to make a profit. That's what we are, not a not-for-profit organization as a franchisee. But they go there and I said, well, let's rethink this. I want to talk to you about the true north, which is the guest experience. And let's walk through the guest experience. If I create that at the level it should be, that's going to create the same experience with employees. And if I truly believe that, and I do that consistently, and I have trust and commitment from my guests, and I'm the obvious choice, I'm going to grow sales.
Okay.
I'm going to grow sales. That's the number one get done that I tell entrepreneurs, is that you can't out profit sales growth. You could have the best food cost in the world, but if you're not getting sales, you're just slowly going out of business.
Revenue fixes a lot of problems.
Exactly. Yep. And then the next question, they say how. And this is what I want to leave our great listeners with. I said, there might be 15 things you need to do, and there might be 20 things you need to do. And I said, but here are the things you can't miss on foundationally. That if I'm going to build a brand new house, and I see the elevation, the picture of the brand new house, it has windows, it has the pretty doors, it has the roof, the patio. I said, that's great. But the most important thing you got to think about is the foundation of what it takes to grow sales. That's the ugliest part of the house. That's the mud and the concrete and everything else. So I tell people, here's the foundation, and here's the 5 things I give them about foundation. 1, you got to really love the guest experience. And so you have to create over-the-top hospitality.
Okay.
If I come in, you got to let me know that you are important to me and it's great that you're here. Second thing, you got to serve me piping hot food or very cold food.
Okay.
It's got to be piping hot. I don't want to have to go back and have you reheat something up. It's just got to come out the way it's got to come out, and it's got to come out consistently that way.
Okay.
Number 3, it's got to taste good. If I follow the recipes 100%, most brand has a great recipes that taste good and it's executed. But the plate presentation erodes itself at some point in time. Maybe no one is checking how it's looking on the plate, but that's an experience that's part of it too.
Yeah.
The fourth thing is I got to know that your plate, I don't want to be looking around your place and doesn't think it's Operation Excellent. And Operation Excellent covers anything. Can I trust you? Can I trust you? The things that should be refrigerated is refrigerated. The things that are hot, there's not food out. There's not a foodborne illness waiting. Or I really got to be able to trust you that. And the way I do that, I can look around the dining room, and if it's dirty, and if it's not, I don't think that you treat your dining room different than the way you treat your kitchen. So I tell people, you have to have a Operation Excellent kitchen.
Okay.
I should be able to feel comfortable and trust you coming into the kitchen. And the last thing I say is that really understand that you as a guest, when you come in, I understand you're going to make a mistake. I understand that I might not hit 100% every time you come in. How much do I care to make it right for you?
Okay.
How much do I treat Anthony as Anthony? We didn't meet your expectation. I know I could buy you food, but I want to let you know this meant something to me that we didn't hit the mark on your experience.
Yeah.
I want you to take my number. I want next time you're in, I want you to look me up, and I want to take care of you. That's what it means about creating a guest experience that's an obvious choice, that when I come back, kind of like Cheers.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best restaurant, the sitcom Cheers. It wasn't the best bar or restaurant, but they did talk about where everyone knows your name, a home away from home.
Right.
Everybody knew there was a special place to go. And we have to create those types of experiences.
No, that's awesome. And actually, I'm going to give you a copy of this book. I'm going to send it to you.
Awesome.
I just sent it to some clients over the summer. Super short read. It's called Obvious Atoms. But like your 5 points, it was just ringing true. Those are obvious points.
Yeah.
Like anybody should know that.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Right.
But most of these businesses, even if you think it's super sophisticated, it comes down to some pretty obvious things.
Right. So Anthony, I'll tell you this really quick. I had a client I was on a call with today, and he's a senior leader inside this organization. And he was struggling with that when he's struggling with getting things cascaded down with alignment. And I said, here's the thing. I always go inside out leadership. I start with me.
Yeah.
I start with me. And I said, he goes, well, tell me more about this. I said, I will guarantee you if I called up, and I think he's in charge of about 30 directors that run multi-unit stores. And I said, you pick the 4, I will call them up. And I will ask them one simple question. Tell me what's urgent to your leader. I said, tell me 4 things that's urgent. Yeah. And I said, what I think we make a mistake at, that we don't spend the extra time to keep it simple, provide clarity, and make sure we're aligned, that nobody opt out. So we did that exercise, and he came back and he goes, the 4 most important things to me as a brand when I go in to visit a territory, he said, it was probably at about 20%. And I said, that's on us to provide clarity. And we'll give you what you need, but we got to know this is what's urgent to you. Doesn't mean the other things are not important, but these are the 4 things or 5 things we can't miss on.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I could keep going.
I know I always go long, man.
No. I got so many other questions, at least, and some other insights. But we'll hold back we'll do this again. And hopefully it's not next year.
But you got carte blanche to me. Oh, you make a call. You know I'll be there for you.
We'll get you on do this virtually.
I love
at some
what we're
point.
doing here at Prosper.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody out there, you need to come be part of this great community.
Cool. And are you come to Accelerate in October?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm missing nothing.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you for your support. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day today at the forum to come talk with us.
I love it.
And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Listen, I am ray.johnson1510
Okay.
And you can also look up ReCee's Consulting, and I'm there.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Cool.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.